Hey guys, what's going on? In today's video, if you're watching this video right after the 2x void happens, I'm going to assume you probably pulled this champion, and congratulations, you've pulled an amazing champion, probably one of my favorite champions. Now, if you're watching this before the 2x event goes live, which is tomorrow, which is the 12th of February, I believe. So yeah, if you're watching it before that, then hopefully you pull this champion if you don't already have her. Like I said, this is probably one of my favorite champions of the game. I like her so much, and she has so many good builds, so many good, like, different uses you can use her for, that I've actually built 2 of her, okay? I don't build very many duplicate champions. Like, if you look through my roster, the only ones I have, well, I have duplicate man-eaters, but that's for unkillable. You need that. But I have duplicates cold hearts. Other than that, I don't have any duplicate build other than Skullcrown. Skullcrown is probably my favorite champion in the game, to be honest, because her kit is just incredible for the arena. I use her in dungeons, or I've used to use her in dungeons all the time. I don't use her in dungeons as much anymore because I got better options. But for a long time, and honestly up until the past few months, I used her dungeons, faction wars, arena, everywhere, except for clan boss. She's not great in clan boss. Now, let's take a look at my Skullcrown. So the first build I want to show you, it's just the all-out nuke build. How you would build her is do a ton of damage. So this is gonna be the first build, which is right here. She's wearing savage gear. This is how I go about building my Skullcrown. So I'm gonna read her abilities real quick in case you don't know what they do. So her first ability is attacks all enemies, places an extra hit if the target has more than 50% HP. Now I want to show you guys something interesting on this, and if you don't watch any of the rest of the video, I hope you at least take this one thing from this video. So Skullcrown's ability 1 kind of is interesting. So she'll place 2 hits if the target has more than 50% HP, but that's after the first hit's damage is already calculated. Watch this and how it works. So turn to 1x speed. Okay, you only see one number pop up over everybody's head. Now, if I go over here to the hard mode version of Doom Tower, and we do the exact same thing, she's not going to do very much damage against these champions. It doesn't matter if she's in the aura spot or not. I don't even know why I moved her just now. But then we'll use her A1 again here, and you see that 2 waves come out. Everybody got hit with 2 waves. So keep this in mind when you're building Skullcrown. If you want to make sure, I mean, it's kind of like a balancing game almost. I personally like to build her all-out damage, but you have a little bit of room to not build her all-out damage, possibly if you want her to land those 2 hits on from her A1 all the time. Because if you do more than 50% of the target's HP in damage, then she's not going to activate that second wave of her ability 1, which may or may not be what you're actually going for. Now, if you're using her for a blender team, this may be a reason to not build her absolute crazy high attack and crazy high crit damage. I don't know. It just really depends on what you expect to go against, because there is a good reason. I mean, if you have 2 hits that are, say, 20,000 damage apiece, and somehow they don't take the target below 50% HP, that's 40,000 damage versus 1 hit that's, say, 30,000. Obviously, it's a difficult thing to measure. Personally, I like to just go ahead and build my Skullcrown to do all the damage possible she can do. Her A2 is where she really shines, but overall, it's each individual person. If you don't build Skullcrown to do crazy high damage, she's still amazing because her A1 will hit twice more frequently. So keep that in mind. She's a very good champion, very solid. That A1 ability, excellent. Just that one little thing to watch out for. Now, her ability 2 has a very high multiplier. Attacks all enemies, has a 50% chance of placing a 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns. Now, personally, I don't build her for accuracy. I don't think it's a strong enough ability. I mean, a weaken is amazing, but Skullcrown hits so hard, you should be bringing a decreased defense champion anyways. And while the weaken would help, of course, it doesn't apply the weaken and then do the damage. It does the damage and then applies the weaken. So she's not really getting the benefit from that. So personally, if you're using her in dungeons, maybe then you could have a reason to actually bring this. But in arena, I'm not worried about this. I have like no accuracy on mine. It's literally just some substats, I guess. But if it lands, perfect. If not, I'm not even worried about it. I mean, it is a 50% chance, books up to a 75% chance. So it's a good chance. But personally, I'm not worried about that. Now, her passive, her first passive, places an unkillable buff. And this is really where she shines. This is why she's so good, is she places an unkillable buff for 1 turn every time her HP drops below 20%. Now, keep in mind, this can be removed if she's stunned. It can just be like gone basically, because she will skip the turn. If she slept, it just basically is useless. But if she doesn't have this removed, she's not stunned, she's not slept or anything like that, she's gonna take her turn. And then when she takes her turn, she can do some crazy high damage. Now, I mentioned I had 2 Skullcrown builds. This is my first Skullcrown build. Their masteries are basically the same. I mean, you can see in this other one that I have the shield breaker, just because I don't run her with Madame. My goal with this other Skullcrown is to have her on defense, let her attack a ton of times, do a ton of damage, and I'll get into her build. But this first one, and if you're going to build your Skullcrown to do things like dungeon runs, if you're going to build her to be speed tuned with your arena team, if you're going to build her to where you want to bring her along with most content, I would focus on attack, speed to make sure she actually goes fast enough to keep up with your team, crit rate, very important. You want 100% crit rate, and then crit damage. Build her like any other Nuke champion. I wouldn't invest resources into accuracy. Now, resistance, there's a possible benefit to having resistance, though with resistance, it's kind of a difficult thing for me to recommend a lot of times, because if any champion is going an accuracy build, they're probably going to have 300, at least 300 accuracy. So in order for them to not place their stun, place their sleep, remove your unkillable, then you're going to have more than 300 resistance. Now, if you're having more than 300 resistance, you're taking away from your other gear. So if you're going like the Nuke, the make your champion fast build, I wouldn't go resistance at all, personally. I mean, if you get a little extra like this, I have, perfect. If not, don't worry about it. Now, this is for a Skullcrown who I go in the arena, go in the campaign, I go in the arena. She does work amazing as a campaign farmer, just a little heads up. Now, Skullcrown's not very good against Rotos. She activates his passive, he gets an extra turn. His, I believe, A3 ignores unkillable, so don't really want to go against him. Now, here's a good example, okay? We'll go ahead and use this arena refill. Let's make sure this is my fast Skullcrown. She's speed tuned perfectly with my team, which you want to make sure. You can go to Deadwood Jedi's arena calculator and check it out to see if your champion's speed tuned or not. And like I said, she does not have the shield breaker on her because my Madame Saris removes the enemy shields. Now, if you're running a Skullcrown in the arena who does not have a Madame Saris with her, then it's definitely a good idea to bring shield breaker as a mastery, because that way you'll do more damage to people who have their shields. Now, as you can see, 56k wipes out the entire team. Very strong ability 2. I mean, she only has 2 abilities, ability 1 and ability 2. And the ability 2 has a pretty short cooldown. So if you're looking for an amazing campaign farmer, if you're looking for an amazing arena nuker, and an overall very solid champion, Skullcrown is definitely a champion to build. Now, I mentioned I had 2 builds. So that first build is my, I guess, overall build. I'll take this really anywhere. She has savage gear. If you don't have savage gear, that's perfectly fine. Still, just build her the same way, focus on the same stuff. And as long as you get, in my opinion, above like 220% crit damage, then start going into Helm Smasher. And this isn't like no specific set number, but I do like to build a decent amount of crit damage before I start switching into ignoring defense. So like if I only had 200% crit damage on my champion, I would probably take Flawless Execution, because I feel like that just gives me more benefit in the end. Let's get into my second Skullcrown build, which is one that I think, well, at least I'm very proud of it. I love it. It's so much fun. And I've been playing around with this for the last few months. And if you've been on stream, this Skullcrown actually, the reason the second Skullcrown came about is because I had this build on the Skullcrown, but she was being used in the arena as my offense and my defense. But her build works significantly better on defense because it's a lot slower build. This build is a Avenging Skullcrown build. Now, the Avenging set is a set you get from dragons. I talked about it in a video a while back, but it has a 45% chance to counterattack when hit with a critical hit. Now, the reason why this is so good is because the Avenging set, unlike other counterattack sets, other counterattack abilities, or whatever it may be, when the Avenging set counterattacks, you don't get your damage reduced. So you do full damage, okay? And everybody who's doing damage in the arena, they're going to be critting, okay? So you have a 45% chance to counterattack when hit with a crit. And since you're mostly going to use this in the arena, you're going to be critting all the time. Now, there's a few things with this build and where it's weak. All right, so as you can see, she's slow. I wanted her to be slow as possible because I don't want her to take a turn. All of her damage comes from this A1 just counterattacking, 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 and then eventually she gets her turn, and then she nukes everybody down with her A2. Now, against Lysandra, she absolutely destroys them. Like, if the other team has a Lysandra and you're fighting them, like if you're on offense, they're on defense, obviously both people, if you're using auto or whatever, she will absolutely destroy any Lysandra because Lysandras are built fast. They have so much turn meter reduction that my Skullcrown's never going to take a turn, and she's just going to keep counterattacking every single time they land a crit, basically. Well, 45% of the time. So it's an amazing set for Skullcrown if you ever slow. Now, I have mine built to do crazy high attack, crazy high damage. I just want her to hit as hard as possible. Now, when I talk about her weaknesses, okay, so she's weak against Rotos, same thing as the other Skullcrown, because he can block unkillable. He just ignores unkillable. She's also weak to debuff removals or buff removals, better yet. So there is more reason to run this as a higher resistance. If you have good gear, definitely put her with higher resistance. Like, I would love for her to be 300 resistance. She's not going to resist those high Madams. She's not going to resist those Gurgos. Any champion who's built specifically to run high resistance, she's not going to be resisting those champions. But champions like a Trunda who don't run high accuracy, but they do land their stuns sometimes, she will resist that. And stuns are her weakness. If she gets stunned, then her unkillable, she just sits through it, and then she never actually gets an attack. Because if you're stunned, you can't counterattack. Now, if she's slept, it's not a huge deal because she can be woken up from the sleep. But if she gets her buff removed, then it's game over. If an arbiter removes it, whatever it may be. So there's definitely a reason to get this up to maybe around, 300, like I said. If I had a resistance banner, it may even be worth putting it on there. And now that I'm actually saying that out loud, I may actually go ahead and do that. I lose quite a bit of attack if I did this, but I would gain a little bit of resistance. Let's see if I got a better one. So I gained 78 resistance, which would put me at 196. And to be honest, this isn't too bad. So I lost a little bit of attack, but she's going to still kill people. I get a little bit of speed, which is not a big deal. So overall, I think I'm actually going to stick with this. I like the extra resistance. Honestly, if I had a crit damage necklace that had some good resistance on it, which I do, I may be making that swap later on. Maybe get a little bit, maybe try to glyph that up a little bit, because I do think having some resistance on this champion is very, very good. Like I said, the only thing she's weak to is Rotos, and then having stuns or that buff removed from her. Now, Hedgies, she destroys Hedgie. If you're looking for a Hegemon counter, the Skullcrown is your answer. Now, I'm going to go through here and see if I can find a team to give an example for. This Iron Brago is a perfect example of why Skullcrown is weak against stuns, though. I tried this team earlier. She's amazing against the Hegemon, but the Iron Brago stuns her, and then it's game over. So I'm going to see if this extra resistance I just gave her fixes this problem. But as you can see, he'll attack. Okay, let's see. See, she gets stunned, and then it just screws me up. So she just sits through this. She would have had 2 counterattacks just then, and then another attack. So she would have had 3 attacks, but because she got that stun, nothing happened. Like, it was just ruined. So let's see against this team, okay? We'll put her against us in the slow spot just by herself, okay? So if you're looking for a champion who can solo teams, this is the way to go. An Avenging set Skullcrown, so much fun. So they're going to be faster than me. We even have the decrease attack on our champion. So hopefully we start getting some turn meter reduction. We may not. Okay, so unfortunately we actually get a turn. That's why I want her to be as slow as possible, because I want her to get as many counterattacks off as possible before she ever takes a turn. Now, obviously, this is just her soloing. Oh, perfect. Lysandra. Now, the possible issue with this could be the Rosin. He can strip the unkillable, so keep that in mind. But assuming he doesn't strip that unkillable, you're about to see something that's so much fun, and I love doing this. This can literally work anywhere. If you're in top tier platinum, it doesn't matter, because she's just going to keep counterattacking, and Lysandra's just going to keep reducing her turn meter. As long as your Skullcrown's not built fast, it's no problem whatsoever. So look at this. Then Lysandra does her thing, another counterattack, and she wipes out the team. I've done this against teams whenever I was pushing into plat, and it'd be very, very high gold 4, or even into platinum arena, and she just counterattacks. It's so much fun. At least for me. I like watching her run through these teams. Now, this is another good example. Okay, so nobody here does a stun. Nobody here removes her buff that I know of, unless Valkyrie has some crazy abilities. They're going to have shields, they're going to have counterattacks. And let's see if this Lysandra can keep my Skullcrown's turn meter reduced. Okay, so remember she's like at 130 speed, 137 or something like that. The only thing that could mess me up is if my Skullcrown actually gets a turn. Like I said, I want her to be as slow as possible. Now, this is a Valkyrie. This is a Stag Knight. It's a full team of champions, but my Skullcrown's not having a problem. Lysandra, like I said, Lysandra against a Skullcrown with Unkillable, it's her nightmare. Now, this may start to get a little bit wonky. I don't know. Depends on how fast this Lysandra is. Because Valkyrie's not built for 100% crit, obviously. That's just not how people build Valkyries typically. But this Lysandra is doing a very good job about manipulating my turn meter. And I love it. I'm not going to complain. The Stag Knight applied decreased speed, so my Skullcrown's even in a better spot. Now, the Lysandra is dead, but hopefully you're about to see how much damage, okay, well, she can take when she gets hit by a Valkyrie. Now, obviously, that right there at the end, if the Valkyrie didn't place the shield buff on herself, would have been a different story. That's a big reason why I bring that shield breaker mastery, though, is so she can have that extra oomph to actually destroy that shield. It didn't work out there. The Valkyrie did end up beating us, of course. All right, guys, so that was just a little showcase there of my favorite champion in the game. Well, I believe is probably my favorite epic in the game. She has so many fun builds. If you pull this champion during the 2X, feel free to copy these builds, guys. Feel free to go off these builds as some inspiration. Let me know down below. Do you have Skullcrown? Do you build her with accuracy? Do you care about the accuracy? And have you ever built an Avenging Skullcrown? If not, are you going to build one now? Don't forget to like the video, guys, if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to click one of the videos that are about to pop up, and I'll catch you in the next one.